Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our special talk today with Atul Dodiya on Gandhi Jayanti. Atul Dodiya needs very little introduction. He's probably one of India's foremost contemporary artists. He is a visionary and is a lifelong learner. More than anything, he is one of the most humble human beings I have ever encountered. His work is part of several museum collections across the world, including the NGMA in India and the Tate Modern. Over the years, artist Atul Dodiya has moved effortlessly beyond a narrative and style of depiction to explore the social milieu he inhabits with subtle humor and even satirical slants. Through his paintings and assemblages, Dodiya engages with both political and art history as he entwines global public memory and local personal experience. Thank you, Atul, for making the time to be with us today and for talking about a subject that is dear to both of us, and it remains a haunting and lingering presence in your practice. Thank you.
My pleasure, Ishita. Nice talking to you.
I'm going to start, Atul, by asking you, how did you decide that you wanted to become a painter? Because you said that, you've said to me once, that you knew you wanted to be a painter when you were 10. Now, when I was 10, I barely knew which book I wanted to read. So I would love to know from you, what made you decide that you wanted to be a painter, and how did that happen?
I think he did it, probably. But let me tell you that it's, nothing like I was like the usual child of, 8, 10. I was just like that. But I remember precisely that, just I was in the 6th standard, and just before the Diwali vacation, one of my teachers had done a drawing of a boy kicking football, and he had asked us everyone to copy it. And in the notebook, I did it, and somewhere I felt that I have almost achieved the proportion, likeness, and it was good. And then just like then I was like a boy possessed, and I just started drawing in the vacation, and then I continued, and within a year I realized that it's nothing else but just painting I want to do. So that's how it started. But at home, no one was artist or a painter or nothing like that.
Can you tell us a little bit about what sparked your interest in Gandhi? I think you were about 15 or 16 when you first read his autobiography. And I think you read it in Gujarati, but I could be wrong. Can you tell us about how your association with him started? How did your interest in him build up?
Yeah, actually, I tell you, of course, I read it in Gujarati when I was 16, probably. Yeah. My uncle gifted me the book, and I read it. But before that, I would like to tell you that originally I am Kathiawadi from Saurashtra, but I was born and brought up. My 5 sisters and 2 brothers, we were all born and brought up in Bombay. My father came from Saurashtra, from Gondal, which is near Rajkot, and he came in 38 in Bombay. But so we would go in vacation in Saurashtra to visit my grandparents, my uncles, etc. And uh, but uh, uh, at home, the atmosphere was in a way Gandhian. The school where I went here in Ghatkopar, in the northeastern suburb of Mumbai, where I still live and paint, um, a Gujarati medium school called Gurukul Vidyalaya, which was again kind of Gandhian only. We still have a statue of Gandhiji, just as you enter into the compound before you enter into the building. So, and Gandhian meaning basically what we understood is that you can't waste food. People don't get, to eat. So when you are given something to eat, finish it. You can't throw your clothes, until they are torn. People don't get to wear, clothes or. So that was the kind of, background which we had at home, in school, etc. But I tell you something that. Around, I told you about this boy kicking football. It was drawn by one of my drawing and art and craft teacher called Mr. Pisori. And very simple, humble gentleman. And as you enter in the school building, on the right hand side was a blackboard, large blackboard. On that, he would write news mainly. He had a very good handwritings. And so he would write, the news and sometimes some subhashit from Sanskrit, with Sanskrit as well as in English, Gujarati translation. So that was there, but around we were 10, 12. That time, some of the boys, it was a boys' school, and started talking among ourselves, saying that, Ishwari sir is Muslim. So I said, okay, he's our teacher, he speaks Gujarati, and but no, but he is a Muslim. So that was a kind of, I was intrigued even then, that what does it mean? The school had boys, Brahmin, Kapoor, Jain, Patel, and some other communities, but this was something which was very categorical. And then we forgot. Nothing, no one said anything further. But another thing, at home, my parents were a big film buff. And they would listen to, and watch movies and take us also, to see films. But they would mainly talk about the music and song and actresses of 50s. And I remember, you see, the names which were so familiar, they were like music directors, particularly like Sid Naushad. There was a Ghulam Muhammad. There was a great genius called Sajjad Hussain. And there was poets like Majnu Sultanpuri, Shakil Badayuni, Shahir Ludhianvi, and there were singers like Mohammad Rafi and Suraya and Noor Jahan. So these names were very, common in the household, talked about, and of course, like radio will be on, Binaka Geetmala's Radio Ceylon will be, I tell you something interesting, that in this lockdown, I have been doing small scale watercolors and listening to Radio Ceylon. Lots of, old songs, from 40s and 50s particularly. And I have discovered amazing stuff, in that. Anyway, so I said, these names which I see, and then of course there was, great actor like Dilip Kumar. And I said, this, of course, there was Devanand and Raj Kapoor, and there was Lata Mangeshkar and Geeta Dutt, of course. But so these are the names, and they are also so much part of our life. So much joy and pleasure we have got from those golden era music of Hindi cinema. And so what is wrong in, if someone is a Muslim? So that was one thing which I still sort of, remember vividly. And then, of course, when I read Gandhi, and I said, my God, what a we had, like drawings of Sardar, Pandit Nehru, Rabindranath, Subhash Bose, Gandhiji, in our home, and they were framed and put, hand drawn by someone, very good quality actually. So that was there, but we were taken to watch movie on Gandhi, documentary, etc. But apart from that, when I read the book, where he also, once there is a mention that when one of the sons was very unwell, and they were living in South Girgam area, in congested area. So doctor said, he is asthmatic. You should go to a open, dry space. So for that, he was advised to come to Ghatkopar. It's there. It's written in his autobiography. So he came to Ghatkopar, but he wanted sea nearby. So then he decided to go to Bandra. Then he decided, no, not Bandra, because there was a slaughterhouse in Bandra. So finally, he settled in Santa Cruz, Bombay. So this also I remember. But one thing I felt that what a man. I'm still afraid. I shiver with his name, that his courage against any injustice, to stand. His his freedom is not, it's not given to you on a platter. You have to snatch it. I saw all that, and I said, this is, I don't have this kind of courage to come out and talk to anyone. There is injustice. You should speak, but Everyone doesn't have that kind of a thing. So that was there. And these things were there. But if I take 2-3 minutes more to explain, that how I came to Gandhi as a subject for my painting. That in 1990, then of course I went to Jesus School of Art. I studied there and I was teaching there for a year. In 1991-92, I was a French government scholar. And when I returned in October 92, I was full of ideas. I had seen such a great work of art, face to face, original in the museums. I had realized that, oh, one can do so many things. So much great work has happened. So there is a big challenge also. And within 2 months' time, in December, 6th December, Babri Masjid was demolished in north, in Ayodhya. And then there were subsequent riots in the country. In March 93, Bombay saw a kind of serial bomb blast, and all that. I was shocked by these things that specific community has been picked up and their properties are burnt. The others were also been kind of injured, and there was a lot of violence, killings were happening. This is not something. But then I was full of Matisse and Picasso and Marcel Duchamp and all these things. I said, it's okay. And I mean, this, whatever happens is a bad thing. Any sensitive human being would kind of respond in this manner. And I went on doing my uh, paintings, which had lots of art history references. But 1997 was a crucial year because that was the year when India was celebrating 50 years of independence, and there were many events were happening, and we in artists were invited for various shows. And one of the shows which RPG Enterprise had organized in Bombay, it was a big show at Jahangir Art Gallery, and I did one painting called Lamentation. The celebration is no doubt great thing, but I felt that it's uh, um, we say that we are happy that there is freedom, we are free, but um, there are many problems: poverty, lack of education, no great leadership, rise of underworld, and tension between the communities. In that context, I said it's important, to talk about Gandhi, and I did this painting. Though the moment was of celebration, I call it Lamentation. It's a large 6 feet by 8 feet canvas, and half the painting is divided by, with Gandhi image as well as a Picasso painting from 1943. During the Second World War, he did this painting. It's called First Steps. We see an old man going. We see his back, and he is gone. And this First Steps is a painting where a young girl is learning to walk, and mother is holding her hand. And I also painted the hovering, flying angels, but whipping and lamenting. They were taken from Giotto, the great early Italian Renaissance masters, frescoes, which is Padua near Venice, where dead Christ is there and these whipping, lamenting angels are there. I did this because I felt that that young girl is learning to walk. My daughter was not, of course, she was running and was much older than the child who learns to walk. And I felt what kind of a future she has in this country. Old man is gone, young girl is learning to walk. And when I noticed that in the way Picasso has painted the eyes of this young girl, it reminded me of the eyes of the Kali, the goddess. And I felt, oh, if she will have to probably play a role of goddess in future, and but how to convey that in painting? So I just took one of the Kalighat oleograph image of Mahakali, underneath the Shiva image is there, and lifted foot is there, and Shiva image is there in the bottom. That's how I did this painting, and I felt I was very happy with this work. So this happened, and within few months, I realized that it's not just one painting. You need to speak more. Exactly during this time, there were also plays were happening in Gujarati as well as in Marathi in Bombay, and there was kind of a very almost like a ridiculing Gandhi, or Gandhi's relationship with his son. Those things were been kind of emphasized and talked about. Mm, and I felt that no. I mean, we can't afford, not thinking of Gandhi in this kind of a time. Not just in India, but everywhere, all over the world. Intolerance, violence, so much is happening. Gandhi is must, And then I did a series of large watercolors called An Artist of Non-Violence. And how I came to this term, that the thing was that I was in a dilemma. Someone who is interested in modern masters like Picasso, Matisse, as I said earlier, to suddenly turn from art and art history kind of references, quotations, homage to a leader, a political leader, a great statesman. Um, um, it doesn't gel in my mental setup of the way I conceive my imagery. Um, so I said, I feel like painting Gandhi, but there is no reason, precise reason. The things which I talked about, it's the outer reason. The inner reason for a painter to come to terms with image, in terms of with color, form, etc. That was not somewhere gelling. So then I was reading about Gandhi, and I came across a statement by him where he says, I am not a seer, rishi, or a philosopher of non-violence. I am an artist of non-violence, and I try to develop the art of non-violence in the realm of resistance. I said, oh, if he's saying that he's an artist of non-violence, then I know very well what to do with an artist, because that's what I have been doing all these years. And from there, I said, okay, I'm going to paint Gandhi.
And I'd
That's
love for you to tell us a little bit about, you've considered Gandhi to be a conceptual artist himself. So
yes,
how, so tell us more about this process and the body of work we're seeing now, which are
yeah,
your watercolors on paper.
correct. So then, then I said, okay, I'm going to do. So I said, now I don't have to worry. So, and I didn't want to do kind of stylized, formal work of, about Gandhi. I wanted actual Gandhi the way he looked. So naturally, my majority of works are based on the existing photographs of Gandhi. Now, I said that, when he said that I'm an artist of non-violence, I said, if he's an artist, I felt that, if you notice everything about his life, particularly say the structure of his ashram, using, wearing the kind of clothing, the material khadi, dandi march, lifting the pinch of salt, non-cooperation, fasting. I said, these are all conceptual ideas. And he was a performing artist, the way he performed all these things. And the kind of aesthetic which runs throughout all this thing is so special. It's so simple, it's so minimal. So I felt, oh, Gandhi is the first conceptual artist. Now, I like that, a notion or idea that Gandhi is a conceptual artist, but how? Then I felt, okay, and how to depict that particularly in my painting. So I said, okay, I will go to the best conceptual artist of our time, that's German artist Joseph Beuys, and the specific performance which he did called I Love America and I Like America and America Likes Me, which was, I will slightly talk about this also, that the way he, first time he was going to America, and he went covered himself in a felt, on a stretcher, in ambulance, at the Düsseldorf airport, went to New York. Same way he kind of wrapped himself in the and went into ambulance to the gallery. Didn't say hello to anyone. He would ask gallery that tomorrow onward the 4-day performance will have. He also asked about the coyote, the wild animal, which wolf-like animal, which should be with him, and he would do he would just be with that particular animal, and he asked for Wall Street journals to spread all over. Now, in the beginning of the first day, there was a tension between, animal was worried, and angry. But gradually, after 3 days performance, people will be out and watch this thing. Uh, and then there was a kind of a friendship between the animal and boys, and that's what's the performance. And same way, the way he came, same way he returned to his to Germany, in wrapped in felt, on a stretcher, in ambulance, and without saying a single word to anyone in America. I said, this is very, very Gandhian kind of a thing. That's what I feel. And, the protest in a very different way and so creatively. So I said, okay, Gandhi is looking at Joseph Beuys's performance in 1974 at Rene Bloch Gallery. I will do this. And I did this painting. And after that, I mean, till today, I am not exhausted with Gandhi, his concepts, his ideas, and I definitely feel more and more need of that that philosophy of love, faith, tolerance, between uh, the human beings. All this, it's still very, very relevant. His concepts, his ideas, and we can't afford not thinking of him. So I've been doing Gandhi painting still then onwards. So these are some of the works, from uh, um, from an art on,
Non-violence.
yeah, non-violence. And this is of course the work which is when the partition happened. Leaders were very, very sad, upset. It's called the painful resolution. And there is one more thing which I would like to say, that the very first large body of Gandhi which I did, which is in medium of watercolor. I felt like if I want to do a series or body of work, it has to be watercolor paintings. See, the paper is a very thin sheet, and little pigment and some water. It's just that's it, and it's very, very. You have to be attentive and you have to be careful. The oil, you can do a lot of changes, etc. And I thought the medium of watercolor has a certain spiritual quality. I believe in that. It's also a minimal. Can oil painting is a canvas itself is an object. There is a linseed oil, there is a turpentine, thick pigment, it's a smell. So it's a more material thing. I said for Gandhi, you have to apply this medium. So that's why the watercolors came, and I did this series of paintings.
I
In
love talking to you about the medium you choose always, because you say that one thing that's consistent in your practice is not necessarily style, but it's experimentation.
Yeah.
I do want to move on to the works you did, which, and we have a few here, which touch on literature and poetry.
Yes.
And the impact that lots of reading, because I know you're an avid reader.
Yeah.
What was the impact of that? Because I think it is Gujarati poetry that you used within works,
Yeah.
and you've used chalk paint and marble dust, I think,
Yeah.
together to put them together, and it looks like a blackboard. When you were talking about the blackboard earlier, I was thinking of these works. So if you could tell us a little bit about literature and poetry and the impact it's had on your practice, even when it comes to Gandhi, because of course your practice is not limited to only focusing on Gandhi. It's a very robust practice, but we're only looking at these today.
Yeah, actually, I have, I get very easily tired of my myself, and I don't like to repeat things which I must have done it earlier, and so I feel like doing something which is challenging. There are risks involved, and so I have been reading literature, but my interest is wide. From pre-Renaissance to post-modern. I love everything. I love Bollywood posters. In those days when I was growing up and was thinking of doing paintings, I was, the hoardings, film stars were painted, hand-painted pictures. Now it's all digitally painting. But then, so uh, uh, cinema, literature, uh, the Indian miniature paintings, modern paintings, landscape art, um, advertisement, signboards. even Rangoli, could be an inspiration for me to create something. So I am quite open for get things from anywhere, and I feel that everything belongs to me and it's mine. I just grab it and just do it. So the text, like for example, we have an Indian miniature painting where there are manuscripts which has a text and illustration together, but they're of a very high standard of art, I would say. And same way, 7th and 8th century Chinese calligraphy or medieval manuscripts from Europe, all that I kind of collect in the form of books, of course. So the typography, which I see very carefully whenever I come across magazines or any advertisement. So that also interests me. So when I did a series of watercolors called Antler Anthology. They were Gujarati poem paintings, readable. So if you are able to read Gujarati, you can read Gujarati text as well as, so you're looking and reading, watching and reading is happening simultaneously. Of course, basically reading is what? It's seeing. You see, that's why you read. So I felt that okay, I'm going to do this, and I came across one of my most favorite poets, in modern Gujarati language is uh, poetry is Lap Shankar Thakur. It's sad that he is no more, but Lap Shankar was in Ahmedabad, and he wrote a prose pieces, small pieces called Bako Che Kalpo. It means Bako exists, imagine. Bako is a nickname for a young boy. And here the boy, Bako, is having an imaginary dialogue with Mahatma Gandhi. In their sleep, they both are having dialogue with, and nothing about freedom movement or resistance or anything. It's just like a surreal, fantastic dialogue, And I thought that this is very, very interesting to look at Gandhi in a totally different context. And I said, if I have to do this, and in the text there is mentioned that Bako hated school. He didn't like it. So I thought that okay, I'm going to do this paintings where as if they are written, the text written in on blackboard. But I felt that the text was so fascinating, so interesting that I asked my friends to translate it for me in English, and so larger audience could kind of read it and can be sort of shown at to larger audience. So I did that, and there were large scale works with as if it's a blackboard thing. But you can see here that the drawing of a boy kicking football, which I started in the beginning, which you see in this no studies, no kicking count painting, that drawing was done by my Pisori sir. The one we thought we were talking about, that he's a Muslim. So that drawing was done by Pisori sir, and here again it comes, in this painting, which I noticed now today while talking to you. I was not aware of that particular boy kicking football, which has come here. Anyway, so that's how these blackboard paintings came with a different approach to talking about Gandhi.
And I'm going to move next to talk about broken branches. I know we saw the images earlier, so we'll go back to them. So, you built on these assemblages, which are cabinets of curiosities. And this specific work, I think from 2002, was at the Venice Biennale last year, 2019. And such cabinets of yours are part of the Tate Moderns collection. I think it was part of your debut show in New York as well. And you've often talked about this idea of constructing or structuring something is very difficult, but destroying it is easy. So
Yes.
how do you, kind of put these together, and how do you, what inspired this particular set, which have slanted roofs, which have the birds, and I think they touch on, repair, resurrection, reparation even, and why is this important to you?
If I give you a background for this work, that there was a show happened of in Manchester in 2002, and we were invited. I was invited, and the curators told me that Ghulam Mohammad Sheikh and Jyotindra Jain were the curators, and the show was called, long title, interesting title. It says New Indian Art home, street, bazaar, shrine, museum. So I said, all this to put together in one work, how this, you create something new for us. We don't want any existing work. So I had gone to Porbandar where my sister was living then. So, and I would often go to Kirti Mandir, Gandhi's birthplace, which is a memorial museum now. And there's a one particular room on a ground level, which is small room with cabinets, something similar which you are seeing now. And those cabinets were very shallow cabinets where Gandhi, the letters and photographs were kept. And on the top, the roof was slant. I was wondering why, because they said that the pigeon comes inside and they make mess if it's so on the slant thing they can't sit. That's why those cabinets. So I actually thought, okay, what if I create this? So I said, okay, I'm going to do installation with cabinets. See, essentially, I must tell you also clarify that I'm a painter. I'm not a sculptor. And my, even my shutters or my cabinets, they go against wall. So like a painting. Painting hangs on the wall. This cabinet hangs on the wall. Shutters also hangs on the wall. And so, so it's three-dimensional, but essentially it's a painter's vision. Anyway, so when the cabinets came, I asked the carpenters to create this, and they created, and I felt, but what to put inside? Idea is good, that they are based on Gandhi's birthplace, and basically I was into showcases, you see, and all if you see middle class houses have lower middle class houses, they have showcases which has a trophy, where a kid must have won cups, in carom competition. Parents must have gone to Kashmir, so there are things brought from Kashmir, birds particularly flying, kept on the wall, or a marriage picture, or suddenly there's a conch which must have come from Madurai, so memorabilia and all kind of things, and it's a mix of diverse things together, but they are so personal, and those people, those who have kept that, it matters to them. So I thought, this showcase is something very, very unique to our life, and I'm going to do this something. But I was wondering that what exactly I put inside. Exactly during that time, another thing happened. In 2002, February end, the train was burned in Godhra, and then there were subsequent riots again in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, and many people were killed. So again, communal conflict, communal violence, which was shattering. Everyone was shattered in this country. We didn't know how to respond, what to say. So it just happened that I saw someone with a prosthetic limbs. When I just gone to my doctor for some medicine, and another patient was sitting, and I inquired him, and I went and I got lots of prosthetic limbs, used ones, and there were bones, human bones, but of course, they were cast in fiberglass, and then I treated to look like a real, and there were photographs, objects, everything. And my father was a civil contractor, and he would often say, for him, he said the biggest tragic moment in his life was the day Gandhi was killed. And so and that he would often talk about. So I felt that he said that to create, to structure, it takes time, but to destroy, takes nothing. Whether it's a building or whether it's a relationship. So this remain in mind. So I use lots of tools of carpenters' tools, masons' tools, with joints, which creates, they are not the element of destruction. Those objects are. So they were photographed. There were other stuff, and I did it. And the birds could not sit. So I said, okay, I'm going to put birds on top of it. And I love ornithological studies of birds, and collect those things, and also paint myself, sometimes just birds. I just love it. So so those birds I kept, and I felt India is such a 5,000 years old tradition, great culture, and here we ourselves, killing one like a great banyan tree and killing, breaking one branch after another, and this is very very sad and tragic. So I call it broken branches. But let me tell you, since this particular image is here in this work, it's a young child. Her name is Sharda. She was 9 months young baby in an orphanage in Hyderabad. I read in the evening tabloid the news that her cornea was removed and sold for money. If today she is alive, she must be about, I think, 18 or 16, 18, and but blind. So imagine. So this is also kind of homage or a kind of placing her in the cabinet along with Gandhi and other images. That is the beautiful young child but blind. So yeah, it's all painful imageries. Yeah.
A lot of your work actually responds to what's happening in the world, and particularly what's happening in India at the time. So if we move to see your Shutter series, and the
Yes.
one we have here, which is called Nirbhay,
Yeah.
from 2012, and I think everybody can figure out what it refers to. And I won't ruin the reveal because these are your Shutter works, so there are multiple different ways of seeing this. Even though it's a shutter, as you said, that goes on a wall, it can be closed and opened and become an experiential work in that sense. And do you want to tell us a little bit about this one, and also, Leo Tolstoy here and Gokhale here, and
Yes.
where this came from, and a young Gandhi?
Yes. Yeah. And of course, the Gandhi is seen here as a young when he went to uh, England to become barrister. That he joined vegetarian society and then went to Africa, and you know how fearless, nearby he was, and his Ruskin, Tolstoy, Srimad Rajchandra, and Gokhale, his guru. All four gurus are on the top, on the hood, and yeah, the shutter is openable, and when you open the shutter, you see the image. Actually, shutter is interesting work. I feel that in the sense it's one work, but you have need to see both the inside, outside, half open, full open, and also the now of course my shutters are more mechanized one, but previously they were just you have to push it up and pull it down. So you have to use your muscles. It hits the hood. There is an industrial sound. The shutter itself is belongs to urban landscape, but here again the totally Roy Lichtenstein pop artist, surreal imagery, with tears, the face with the tears, and 2912, that was the day. I mean, when the girl was raped and was killed, So, yeah, I just kind of, I just combined this totally two different, one young man, with her, and who he become, and what happened to for whom he was fighting throughout during the freedom struggle. And here we have a this is till today this is happening. It's such a painful thing. Yeah. So this is Nepal. Yeah.
Especially today and in the last few weeks, I think we're seeing this all over again and every day, if we bother to find out. But I do want to talk a little bit about the craft behind your shutters and what kind of made you paint on, these are actual shutters. These are not something that looks like them, the same shutters we would see in the street.
Yeah.
What made you come towards this? And can you tell us why you think your shutters are like shrines in that sense?
Yeah, well, actually, because what happened that, when the curfews were announced and, the city would be very silent, quiet, shutters are down, particularly the city like Bombay, where you see shops all around. And also there was, like it was in 2000 when I was approached by curators from Tate Modern. They were doing the first major exhibition called Century City, and some of us were invited. and the each city was chosen for a specific decade, and there were 9 cities, and Bombay was chosen for the last decade of the 20th century, where curators, Geeta Kapoor and Ashish Rajadhyaksh, they were the curators, and they were concentrating about what's happened in last decade of 20th century in India. So in Bombay particularly, the rise of underworld, terrorism, violence, all these things. So I said, okay, Bombay paintings, I had many, but again, I thought of doing something new, and I said, okay, I'll do shutters. But there was something which was there before that in my mind, that people were talking that conceptual art, new art, video, photography, many things are happening, performance, all this thing, and somewhere this notion that the painting is dead in Europe, in America, this phrase was used, and I said, painting can't be dead. A painting is still alive and kicking, and so many great masters of our time are still painting. And I said, okay, so I'm going to do painting, and I'm going to do painting which is, you have to do see 2 paintings, then the experience will be complete. Also, I will paint on a corrugated surface of the metal shutter. It is difficult. So painting is in fact more difficult. So to emphasize on that, with enamel paint, painting on a corrugated surface. Of course, now some of them are flat putties, but otherwise they were circular corrugated surface. So it was difficult to paint. So I made myself very difficult to paint on the that kind of a surface. And yeah, and there, as you said, correct, they are real shutters like 9 feet by 6 feet and operatable. They go up and down, but there is no room inside. There's a flat wall, and you see the image inside. So I did quite a few with Gandhi as well, yeah, shutters.
Do you, Atul, see yourself as retelling history in a sense? Because you often juxtapose different movements in history and arrange them side by side. So, you've drawn parallels with the Indian freedom movement and the modern art movement in Europe. So, how did that come about? And do you think you're retelling history in some way?
Well, I think most important thing for any artist, whatever subject matter or theme or a concept or idea, whether what you are creating is a sufficiently creative work or not. When I paint, Gandhi, is it a worth looking painting? Not just because it's a Gandhi. It has to be a beautiful painting to begin with. You see, so all your notion, ideas, concepts, everything goes in the backward, and you have to something come which is a more challenging, that how to render, how to treat, formally how to kind of present it, etc. Now the uh, well, I did this particular, pairing work, which has again Gandhi and which has images from modern masters. That idea came from, you see, one thing is also there, that, when I see something, when I see, say, sunflowers,
Right.
Near sunflowers, and I immediately think of Van Gogh sunflower. It comes to my mind. So when I'm doing a painting and I'm thinking of having sunflowers in my painting, I would say I would just lift outright from Van Gogh and add that. So there is a totally Van Gogh sunflower is a totally different context. I put them in another context, and it gets juxtaposed, and there is a very hybrid kind of imagery happens, which is fine. I feel, which I feel it's more engaging. How you engage your viewer, that is a concern. So what happened that, when I was looking at this Gandhi photographs, I said, okay, if when Gandhi came in around 1915 from South Africa, and he the movement began with him in a full-fledged way. So during that time, uh, here there is a fight for freedom of the nation. Exactly during that time, what was happening in Europe, particularly in France, in Paris, Picasso, Matisse, Duchamp, these people were creating another totally new language for modern art, and I felt that, okay, there was a fight or struggle for creative freedom. So these two freedom, creative freedom and freedom of the nation, I said, oh, this is interesting. And no, with no clue or no idea, I have been taking pictures in the museum when I travel, in Europe or America. And this artist I have been admiring for such a long time. So sometimes I would take even the photographs of the paintings. So I said, okay, what if I paint Gandhi from a photograph which is available in oil painting, and the oil painting which was done by Leje or Matisse or whoever, that is in the form of photograph. So it's also reversal of the role of the medium. It's like painted photographs and paintings photographed. So I said, this is good. So I call this series Mahatma and the Masters. That's how this particular series came, and very realistically rendered Gandhi from a photograph, and then you see Beckman or Matisse and other paintings of other uh, modern masters, and put them together as a one work.
I want to talk a little bit about your love of pop culture, because I know you and I have had quite many conversations about cricket and about movies and things like that. So, just to delve into your mind a little bit, you once told me that as an artist, you have to think about your practice every time you go into the studio, the way a cricketer when he goes out to bat. So, you can't
Yes.
think about the previous shot or the next shot, it's just the ball that's coming at you right now. So can you talk a little bit about about your craft and how you approach it?
Yeah, actually, it's also like that. It's just, the way cricketer on a pitch, at that time, he cannot think what happened yesterday, what's happening in the family, and, it's just that particular ball. And you have to, and, if you are going to do a century or a double century or a triple century, like Sehwag, who did it 2, 3 times. So if you are doing that, then imagine the presence of mind one has the attention to the kind of that game, and that particular moment is amazing. So I think it's the same thing about painting. You can't afford having hovering collectors, galleries, auction house, museum people, curators, writers over your head. You have to shut them out and just be with what the most horrifying thing for an artist is, the facing a blank canvas. It's just the most challenging thing. So you have to kind of they come, but you have to kind of keep them out and just create work. And you are face to face with revelation, a new experience. And new experience is something, it's a very special thing which we human being can get it. So I feel that it's that a new vision, new experience. That is actually the purpose of creation.
And you've said, I mean, there's a quote that you've said this once, and I'm going to read, so forgive me for that. Um, as I said, I'm an artist. I can go back in time. And for an artist, I believe there is no past, present, or future. It's more like a river, just a flow, and one is part of it. I can go back in the past can come into the future or the present. Everything merges into one another, and I can come up with a new experience. So can you talk about a little bit of this? Because you don't romanticize the past in that sense, the sense of golden ages, or even though a lot of your work is drawing on the past.
True. Yeah, because that what remains for a long time with you, that also matters, and yeah, because some of this work of art from the past, some of the artists from the past, centuries ago, they are um, they talk to me so much. Almost every day I have a dialogue with Piero della Francesca or Masaccio or Giotto or Nainsook, which is uh, which is true actually. So I think it's so they are my contemporaries. I don't see those were, oh, Rembrandt, Dutch painter from 18th century, nothing like that. He exists, and with me. So I think even not necessarily, and some of the contemporaries are fossilized, I feel already, or it's gone. They don't matter to me sometimes, not always all, but sometimes. So it's not that the present time is the only time, because this, as soon as I say present, it is past, it's gone. You see, so how you define the present moment? That's of course, it's a philosophical area we would enter. But the thing is that everything goes back. So if yesterday is still present time, yeah, it is present time, and 50 years is not present time in a way, yes. But if you see a long, large time span, then you read it. What I say, so.
So could you talk a little bit about these works right now? Because we're seeing them as photographs of specific years and moments that were very important in history. Say this one, which was from Quit India Resolution in 1942, is based on a photograph, but then you have added your own paint to it in that sense. So could you talk about the process and thinking of these works a little bit?
Yes, you know what? Actually, I was the Tagore. You see, also there is an unfinished painting behind me with Gandhi and Tagore in Shantiniketan. But it happened that when I was invited by Bhavdaji Lad Museum for an exhibition, and in 2014 I did a show called 7,000 Museums, a project for Republic of India. It was essentially about the viewer. What is the how, and what is my role as a painter, as an artist, and what is the role of the museum, galleries, in the context of viewer. Anyway, so when I thought that I would, since the Bhavdaji Lad Museum is a Bombay City Museum, Bombay Municipal Museum, I said I'm going to do something what happened in Bombay City as well during which year. So I thought, during say freedom moment, and that time I think Bombay was very active, Gowalia tank, and uh, August Kranti Maidan, all that, and Gandhi, and so many leaders and even industrialists were engaged in the in the freedom movement. So I said, okay, I'm going to do the things which happen in Gandhi, Gandhi being in Bombay and active with other common people as well as some leaders. And I thought that when this was happening, what was happening in other part of India, and I just thought of straight away from west to the east in Calcutta, in Bengal, and I thought of Tagore, you see, and I said Rabindranath at the age of 63, I think, he started painting, and he was doing like during the 30s, 1930, he was attempting painting. And if I have to say, he's my most favorite Indian painter, Rabindranath. So I said, okay, like if I have to combine these two giants, one is active and socially, politically active, and one is active creatively at this age, and there is a rapport, there is also kind of differences between them. And I said, okay, if I have to combine, so I took Gandhi image as in the background, and on top of it, I did some abstraction. You will see there's a one about it's a square painting, which is called Congress House, I think. It's here. So, yeah, where I added Tagorean motif, the kind of images which Tagore painted, which is there in the painting. So I was very happy with that kind of idea or invention for myself. That okay, Tagorean things on top of it, of the Gandhi image. Yeah, here. See this on the deck of SS Rajputana, Bombay, August 29. Now this, there is a, if you see there is a yellow bird. Now this bird is straight away I have taken from Rabindranath's painting. So and Rabindranath, and so what is happening, that there is an abstraction on the surface of extreme realism of a specific event. Tagore started doing drawing and painting by doodling, by crossing some of the words on his poem. And while crossing, he came up with a kind of very strange floating abstraction. Some words are there and the rest of this covered with a, decorative form. So, and words are very, very specific thing. It means something. So there is a specific meaning and abstraction together. So I thought that is what is happening here in terms of Gandhi and the realism and the specific event, and on top of it there is an abstraction floating. So I thought this is, I was convinced basically, and I did it. Yeah.
Do you see your work as a tribute to Gandhi and Gandhian values?
I mean, yeah, could say that it is tribute to Gandhi, it's tribute to Tagore. It's also something which which gives me a different new visual experience for myself. Though it is so much totally based on the existing photographs, but how to kind of create something new within that. So that way it was challenging and yeah,
And
tribute.
you referenced earlier that you think about that something has to be a beautiful painting first, and the experience for the viewer. So you think quite often about that, and I've noticed you do this at Sunaprant when you visited, that you love to talk to people about your work. So can you talk a little bit about when we're about art being highbrow, and why is it not for everyone, and how you kind of bridge that gap very well. You actually love when people ask you about your work, and you love explaining it. So can you talk about that approach?
Yeah, certainly. See, the thing is that you see, still, India is such a large country, but art world or is very small, like a large joint family. Few galleries in Bombay and Delhi and Calcutta and other some cities, but not really the way it should be. So and as soon as modern art comes, people are scared. They feel that, oh, we don't understand this, so we will make fool of ourselves. So I think and that's just because they're not acquainted. You see, they don't go to museums, they don't go to art galleries, they don't come across that kind of a work often, and that's why there is this hesitation. So I feel that it's my duty to share, not educate, share them, and talk. And so whenever I'm exhibiting, I go to the gallery, I sit there, I watch people how they see and how they don't see. Their body language in front of a work of art, it matters a lot to me. So that's what I do. But I think you see what I noticed and why I came to this conclusion, because you see, when I was born and I was growing up, we were living in a chawl here in Ghatkopar. So in that chawl, the house was small, so I would paint in veranda. So from early days, my neighbors, they saw me that this guy is a mad guy, he's a possessed, and he just love paintings. So I started doing in early days some landscape painting, still life. And in 70s, Rajesh Khanna was a superstar, you see, the film actor, and he was so I would paint him often. And my sisters and their friends, other girls, they were all in love with Rajesh Khanna. So, I would gift them. So just to impress those girls, I would keep on painting Rajesh Khanna, And but later on, when I started doing different work, when I joined art school, still I was painting in veranda. My whole 2000. Then of course, we moved to another apartment, and that old house became my studio. The neighbors remained same, and my growing with in my own work, from early realism to these shutters, etc., which you saw, they were done there. And these people, they never complained, that they never said that we don't understand art, because they were watching me and I would share with them. Sometimes they would also say that, oh, it's this yellow is there for last 3 weeks. Are you going to change it or not? So I said, oh, okay, no, I'm stuck, I'm confused. So what is the confusion? Tell us. So all these things are happening, and this I love it. How respond. So my mother, my family, neighbors, relatives, I share with them, and I observe that how they see, and I realize that there is no special viewer. It is not that someone is educated in art and someone who is practicing art is the only person who has a right to kind of um, experience and enjoy a work of art. Actually, anyone can. You see, when my mother goes to used to go to buy a sari, she would ask for many shades and she would choose one specific. So that means she has a specific liking for specific material and specific color. There is always this thing. So I tell them, you don't have to, and they say that we don't understand. There is a meaning behind. There is no meaning. There may be meaning behind for myself. You create your own meaning. You create your own story when you are looking at my work. You don't have to have my story. Otherwise, it will be flat. I can tell you on the phone. This is what I have done. You don't have to see the painting. So the all those notes given by artists and writers or other people is fine. It is not a bad thing in itself. But I think you see your own way. I don't understand all kind of arts all the time, but then I still see and I enjoy it. So, and that's how I mean, viewer is very important, and particularly country like us where there is the we don't have programmings. You see, the galleries, museums should have a more and more program for invite lay person, you know, a common man.
And that's very much in keeping with what we do at Sunaprant, where we invite everybody to come in, and I'm hoping we can do it again soon. I'm going to take some of the audience questions because there's a lot of people who want to ask you. So the
Yes.
first one is from, and Atul, just to let you know, while you've been talking about not paying attention to the gallerists and the museums and the collectors, they're all here listening.
Oh,
The first comes from a museum presence, but she asks, there is a notion of fracture in all of your work, in the Gandhi paintings, in the shutters, in the paintings in which you juxtapose international art with your local takes. What does this fracture mean to you? Is it a psychological response or a political statement or both?
would be both, but it is more than that. I would say. I think it's like two different surfaces you encountering, and at the same time you kind of complete two world you know arises in your head or in mind while looking at this thing. There is a photograph of a painting. It's not painting. It's a photograph. It's a flat image, and here is a photograph which is in the form of painting. So I think the word is about structuring. What
Yeah.
do you say? How?
It says that, yeah, what is this fracture? The fracture, so I guess the fracturing of, like even this photograph, right? The color is kind of fracturing the photograph into, or splintering.
The uh, fracturing, or kind of, also I would say the word I would use is uh, conflict, to create a conflict in work of art. That is my very much intention, whether I am painting Gandhi or not painting Gandhi or painting anything. What happened, the conflict and doubts and uncomfortable sort of a situation in a picture plane is something very important. It allows you to remain with a work of art for a longer time. Even when you leave painting, you know you think about it. No, but why like this? What does it mean? What the hell is going on here? It's not smooth, like a softie or an ice cream which just enters your hair, throat easily. It should give you trouble, I think, up to certain extent. And this is one of the way of saying, actually. But I think uh, overlapping, because you see, right now I'm talking to you, and at the same time, I know there is a world is going on. You
Okay.
see, outside there, so much is happening parallel. When we are talking about Gandhi, and but so many things are happening. People are doing their work. People are, I mean, everyone is engaged with something. So this, and if you parallelly you think about this, and particularly this happens in a city like Bombay, where you experience more. The quiet life in a small town or a village is a different experience, but uh, city keeps you on your toes all the time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that has come in my work, and sometimes uh, I'm not saying it's always good thing, but it, yeah, it's there, that kind of a thing in the paintings.
According to you, how important is it for an artist to have a political vision or political opinion?
It's it is not necessary. Like if you ask artists like Gaitonde, he would not say anything. But he has created great art, and he has enriched my life, and what life is all about. So I think there are no rules, but I think um, anyone who is creating is, whether he is conscious or not, he is politically concerned. But uh, I particularly feel that, at the time we are in, it is not. Uh, I think one should talk about these things, about injustice. At least, like I am not a political leader, that I don't go to morcha or I don't go to kind of the public, address public. I am an artist. What I am supposed to do, of injustice, pain, and what's happening to people. Um, so what I do, so I know in my art it comes, and it's not forced. It has come naturally. Yeah. So yeah, as the Gandhi is a long journey from childhood onwards, how things happen and how it built. And there was a time came in 97, 98, it kind of, came in a big explosion. So
The next,
artists should be politically, socially, yeah.
the next one wants to know a little bit about the second layer of geometry that you add in your paintings, by paintings on photographs. Is this significant to adding more dimensions to reality, or rather to question perceived realities?
It's
These are all
convert.
artists asking these questions. So, they all come with dear so, and they would like to learn from you. So that's why maybe they're a little craft focused and quite deep. So I understand, instantly you can't have a response to that.
Yeah, no, but I can say that, the thing is that, like, the one image suggests another image, that image suggests another kind of form. You add something, and then other thing which were existing or which you had started with, that get disturbed. So the whole uh, happening of a work of art is an extremely complex process. It's very difficult to define and talk about what I am. There is no notion, clear notion, that you start with a idea and then you execute. No, you discover. You are not starting with an idea. You are starting with some notion, some idea, vague, and in the process you find. So as Picasso said, I do not seek, I find. You seek only when you are aware that this is what you want, and that's what you're seeking. But you're not seeking anything, you're finding.
The next one wants to know a little bit about your work on a black moon. So that's your shutter work, I think, with Gandhi with the microscope.
Yeah, there is this image about Gandhi looking into microscope and examining um the malaria germs or something. And yeah, when you open the shutter, there is this man which has come from Francis Picabier's one of the paintings, one of the Dadaists from France. But there are two abstract forms are there, which is a map of Bangladesh now uh, and Pakistan. So, and in between there is this man standing with a hunter. Who is this? And who is between Pakistan and Bangladesh? That is India. So is it some big brother role, or what is it? So I think one could read in many ways that particular painting. That and someone is kind of very looking with a concentration in a microscopic view of something, and inside there is also painter myself painting something. So I think it's about the present time. It's about the tension between, again, line of control, boundaries. We are so much obsessed with the boundaries. This is mine and this is yours. This idea, basic idea of this belongs to me and that belongs to you. This belonging part, we belong to everything. Earth is just beautiful for all of us. And these are the cracks the boundaries are the cracks. And that's why I did a series called Cracks in Mondrian when I did this in 2004. But anyway, that's a different body of work. So something about that, I would say.
So I know we're desperately over time right now, and Atul, we can all listen to you for a lot longer, but we won't keep you. But I just want to end on just asking you about Gandhi's values and why are they particularly relevant today?
Well, I think I did say all this thing in a certain way, but I think because you see, we can't, how long we will kind of, keep on fighting, yours and mine. You belong here, you don't belong here. To tell someone this is such a horrible um, idea if someone has it. So I think this has to be gone. Tolerance. If I don't agree with you, I can say I don't agree with you. But just to remove someone, wipe out something. Uh, these are the things which is not. And I think what is important about Gandhi is apart generally if we ask people generally students or anyone a senior person they would say that okay Gandhi gave us freedom from British. It is just generally that, but no, you know, ethically, morally, how we should be living, what our relationship should be with fellow human beings, but more than that, also with the community as a people. All these things are getting more and more complex and troubled. You see, and too much of um, imposing is happening. Too much of imposing, don't impose on me. Don't, I don't like to kind of, that's why, to teaching or imposing or, uh, asserting about things. And then you have to follow, you have to obey. That is something, it's like a dictatorship, which is not, um, it won't work at all. I know this, from the past, history has taught us this, So I think one has to, and in that sense, I think this is how I think about Gandhi. Oh, it's important. His ideology, his philosophy.
You, but you are a very optimistic and hopeful person. This I know
I
about.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. See, because in deep inside, if you go, sometimes it's like if you scratch, then the real nature of person will come out. Okay, but if you go further deep, I say that if you go further deep, you will see there is a compassion, there is a karuna, as we say, there is a love, there is no one likes um, uh, any kind of tension or any kind of we are essentially children of whatever divinity you call it, and here for a joy. Our true nature is, is as we say, anand, joy. What we want happiness, we want joy, we want the kind of enjoy nature, life so much. It's such a beautiful world, beautiful people. So I think that's, yeah, I would say it. Uh, may sound a bit too optimistic, but I am.
I think that's what we all need right now. And thank you, Atul, for making the time for being with us today. And thank you to all our viewers for listening in very patiently and celebrating Gandhi Jayanti together, all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rishita. Nice talking to you.